Hello everybody and welcome to Organian's Puzzle Box. Today I wanted to show you part of the process of upgrading the Surface Forge with the addition of the new Decal Forge blueprint. So I'm in the process of doing this right now and it will be available on Patreon and Fab and so on. But basically what I'm doing is I am replacing the old style decals that the Surface Forge came with. And you can see an example, for example, one here. This is an example of the old style decal. And now we're adding the blueprint version, which is something like this. I mean, they kind of look similar as to how they looked in the previous version, but obviously now it's blueprint driven and far more customizable, because we've got everything over here onto this side. So I've made a tutorial before of how to use the Decal Forge, the brand new one, but right now I am just going through, as I said, through that upgrade. And it's an interesting experience, to be sure, because there's a lot of things that I kind of have to make sure that I get right. But Decal Forge overall just comes with a lot of options now to just make things a lot smoother. So for example, if I take this decal here and I just want to replace the one up there, right? I can just kind of position it very roughly. I don't have to do it perfectly, but then I can just go here and just press align to surface, and now you can see the decal is aligned to that roof, and I can just drag it up there like that, and now I can delete the old style decal. So now I have the new style, okay? And some of the things about the new style decal is, for example, it's kind of showing up here, which I might not want. So I'm just gonna use the decal angle fall off, maybe to like 10 or something. And now you can see that it's been completely masked from that area and it's not causing any issues anywhere. So that's just one example of how you can easily iterate. And you see, I've got these decals, here as well. So I could delete that very quickly, and now I can take the blueprint version, and I can just, again, just kind of position it roughly. I don't have to be very specific, right? And then I'm just going to do align to surface, and now you see it's already aligned. But obviously the scale is way too large, so I can just scale it down a little bit. Generally with decals, you don't want to leave a lot of open space. So for example, right now it's quite thick, so you definitely want to reduce that thickness to something like that. Maybe even more. It really depends on your use. And then I'm just going to make it a bit bigger, so it just kind of covers this area here like that. And obviously, if I want, I could go with the angled decal fall off a bit lower, so that it kind of blends with this surface up here as well. It's a bit of a mossy looking thing. It's it's not meant to it's meant to make the building look a lot more dilapidated, so hopefully it's doing just that. Now I can press this decal over here and align the surface very quickly, and I can delete the old style decal as well. And let me just see, because I think, yeah, you can see in here it is actually meeting up with another decal further down. So this decal is the one over here, which is just adding this grungy looking cement on top of the all of these structures here. So what I want to do is I want to select this one and just make sure that the sort order is set to 1, so it is actually overtaking the other decal that's there. And now I have another one on this side here that, again, I can delete this one and just do a copy. Now the textures that I'm using here aren't probably the best ones for this for this stain type approach, so I might change them to something else, but we'll see. So now I've added this one here, and as you can see, it's doing pretty nicely. It's blending pretty well. Let me just do the angle fall off a bit lower. I don't want to get any errors, but I still want to blend it as much as possible. Something like that. And it looks quite nice, yeah. So the upgrade in general is I wouldn't say it's a lengthy process, but it's definitely something that, can take time, because you have to like go to every one of these decals. So if we go over here, I still have all of these to deal with, and all of these. So there's quite a hefty amount still in the level here to change. And once those are done, then effectively the upgrade to the project is done. But this is for Unreal Engine 5.3, so I've got 5.4, 5.5, 5.6 to do as well. I've also toyed around with the idea of adding some like sandy patches here. I'll probably add them some on the ground as well. But one thing to note is that nanite is not enabled, so I can go into the master material here and just make sure that we are using displacement. What I find is that Unreal Engine 5.3 especially plays really badly with nanite when it comes to shadows. So you can see in here that there's a lot of bugged shadows, and in order to fix this, you'd have to use either use like ray tracing or just simply build the level, and generally the shadows are fixed at that point. Also, if you go into play mode, sometimes these shadows do resolve themselves if you are in play mode. Not all the time, not always. As you can see here, I'm getting like a lot of light in here, although it should be fully covered in shadow. So yeah, that is a bit of a caveat of Unreal Engine, especially 5.3, as I said, with nanite shadows, nanite displacement. But this seems to have been fixed in later versions of Unreal Engine, like 5.6 or 5.7. Now, one interesting thing about these blends, I want to show you here. Onto this blueprint, so onto this decal blueprint. So let me just select it. You can see this is the one that I'm changing. One thing that I've got here, you can see kind of all of these blend curve, like edges and stuff. So interestingly, if I put the decal angle fall off to 0, for example, you can see that the decal overtakes the entire surface, right, of this brick. But putting this to 100, it allows for some of that brick to come through, and then we can actually see some of its edges, which I found very interesting. Now, these decals don't have Parallax Occlusion Mapping or shadows enabled, but we do have some up here, like this one, right? This one has got Parallax Occlusion Mapping, shadows, and POM itself. Not a major difference, but definitely one that's an interesting look. And it's also cool that it blends with the displacement underneath of the texture and the ground that we're using here. One thing that I do need to resolve is these shadows. Like, for example, this decal over here, its shadows seem to be coming from the directional light direction rather than be the opposite of it, so that still needs fixing in this iteration. But yeah, as I go around, I can just add these piles of things like sand, which could be very cool. Obviously, I would really love not to have the issue with the shadows there, but it is what it is. So I think these piles of sand could work. I mean, what is the story behind them? Is there a story? We just kind of have to like kind of go with it, I guess. The coloring of the sand, I'm not doing it versus a color tint. I'm just using fake ambient occlusion to add a bit more interest. You can see the sand in here is just kind of nicely blending with the rest of the environment. But whether or not sand would be up here, that is a different, it's a total different type of question, isn't it? So, but I like how it comes out. So that's kind of progress of it. In some cases I've added here, like for example, I've added this rusty layer, which I find that it works really nice. And what's really cool about this rusty effect is that if you do decal angle fall off and you got nanite displacement enabled, look how nice that it just creates these interesting shapes. But if you put that to 0, it just overtakes the brick. So it really is up to you if you want to blend this rusty kind of look with the rest of the texture underneath. So I find that it adds so much breakup and so much more kind of personality to the whole thing just by doing that. But again, you have to have you basically have to have parallax occlusion mapping enabled on the decal, and also nanite displacement on in Unreal Engine on the surfaces themselves as well. Because now all these decals are translucent with opacity, then we can also go over to their decal opacity and just kind of decrease it a little bit. Let those sort of like shapes underneath come through. But there's some other things that can be done here. Like for example, there's in Unreal Engine 5.6 and 5.5, you can use mesh painting, while in Unreal Engine 5.3 and 5.4 you can use vertex painting, but it doesn't allow for you to use opacity masking to reduce the, effectively make these roof tiles invisible. But in 5.5 and 5.6 you can do that, so you could add a bit more interest here by creating some big holes in the roof. But for now, as I said, what we can do instead is we can just select these decals and decrease their opacity just to make them blend a little bit more with the respected rooftops here. I find that you kind of have to work with these in moderation. You don't want to overdo it. You can see that it's just kind of adding a more realistic aesthetic if you're not so boldly adding them in. Generally, moss or whatever would be growing on this wouldn't be so evident. It would kind of blend with that. Now, obviously, some of the textures here could be changed. So I could, in theory, just go and use, as I said, use that. I've had like this old rust here, so I could use this. And what I find is that you can combine various normals and ORD for this. But right now I've just used the default rust values. And then I can go in here and just look at the ambient occlusion. I could sort of like decrease that a little bit. Maybe change its coloring to its tint to something more greenish, something like that. Just be careful with the coloring. Yeah, something like that. You see, so we could do that if we want to just add a different kind of look. We could also keep what I've done here, but again, just decrease the decal visibility itself. The opacity just is way too strong. So maybe we can do something like that, which I think looks good, really good. There's a lot of this backside here that I have to do. So generally these decals are they're showing up on the inside. So for example, we've got that one. I can delete it, and now I can take one of these decals from this end here. It's effectively the same thing, but just the blueprint version. So I can just add it in and then drag it over here, rotate it. You have to rotate before you align, because if you don't, it will just align on the other side of the wall. And then I will go in here and align to surface. There we go. And just gonna bring it down here, something like that. So I think it looks really good. And then we can darken the color of it, because I think it's way too bright. So we could do something like that, maybe something like that. And then again, look at the decal opacity, just decrease it a little bit, make it blend a little bit more like that, and it's fine. We may want to also change the tiling. Right now it's running a quite large tiling, so we could do a tiling of 2, make the or of 1, just make the surface a lot more, not read a lot less, I guess. One thing here that we're noticing is that we've got a slice in the texture, which is a bit odd, considering this should be a very nice tiling texture, but we can offset it. But yeah, that's where we're headed right now with the Surface Forge, and the update will be live quite soon. I would say within the next few days it will be live on all the websites where I have it. And once that's done, hopefully Surface Forge 1.0 will also be coming out soon, which will bring a slew of many different changes and many improvements, which will hopefully make everybody happy and even more determined to use the tool. I think its development is going well so far, so let's see what the future holds. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.